You ask as many questions. We're even hoping to give you a little bit of time, although President Gilbert has it starting a little later than we wanted. So we're not sure how much we'll get into, but we want to start off with this quote by David VanWagoner. Really think that audio and video feedback really help bring about that spirit of breaks. When your students can see and hear you, they hear the tones in your voice, they know and they can feel your love for them. It's not the same as text. And we have a lot of research to back that up today. Now, one thing I want to point out, our theory here today is we want to make sure you know audio and video feedback is not the only way to teach. It's not even the best way to teach, but they're tools that every instructor should have in their tool bag. We want to make sure that you know how to use those tools so you can make those connections. But the spirit of Ricks is really important, and I should know. I was on the Ricks Collar Spirit team. Okay? The last Ricks Collar Spirit team, I should also point out. There you go.
Okay. And so, one thing that I really wanted to share is when I was a brand new BYU-Idaho instructor back in fall of 2013, I had the opportunity to listen to Elder Clark speak in the fall online presentation, and I was sitting there at my laptop in my Centerville home, really excited, and I was ready to take notes. And the things that he said inspired me so profoundly that it changed the way that I have taught as an online instructor. And this talk isn't available. We looked for it. But I took really good notes, and so I'm going to tell you some of the things that he said that maybe will impact you, and you can tell how they go along with what President Gilbert is saying to us today. When President Gilbert was talking there, I thought, okay, our presentation is so aligned, it's so with what we need to do. President Clark said that God will assist us, and we will be his instruments to provide experiences for God's children through the use of technology. He said that it's going to happen quickly. We saw that today, didn't we? He said that what we are doing will bring hope and God's love and power to his children. Just like President Gilbert said, the Lord is working with us, and our work is accelerated. And then he said, use the tools that we have to touch their hearts. And I would like to say that the tools that we have here in our courses, the technology that we have, is a way that we can touch our students' hearts both spiritually and intellectually. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Another thing we want to point out is, as we look through the weekly reflection data from this year, everyone said the things they wanted to know the most about were iLearn Free and multimedia. So we got those covered.
Okay, so we all recognize the importance of quality feedback, and there are a few physical, intellectual, or social skills that anyone can acquire without a supportive environment and adequate feedback. And so I would like you to look at these best practices and just think to yourself, do you think that audio or video feedback in our courses can help us to accomplish these types of best practices? And just think about that. These kind of goals, I thought also what President Gilbert was saying is, can help us, using audio can help us reach the goals of having disciple leaders, educational innovations, and teaching oriented work. And so I really thought that was important. So we have identified about 20 sources of research and reviews that have evidence that work with the online audio instruction for online. And so we're going to cover some of that information today. That's what our information is based on. We also are going to discuss the prominent themes developed from those research. There's 5 of them. We're going to utilize qualitative statements from BYU-Idaho students that support those themes. And then David is going to teach us how to utilize it in our courses and systems. So, the ability of audio feedback to enhance connectedness and social presence is supported in every single piece of literature that I have read on the use of audio in online teaching. It's just a really, really strong point in that. Audio is found to be more than just mere words because it has expression and depth and tone, and it's less likely to be misinterpreted, don't you think, David?
Sure.
And so I'd like to ask you, what kind of social cues do you think that audio feedback could supply more easily to our students than text-based?
I do audio feedback. My class has a semester-long project, and so I like to give project feedback with the audio feedback. And I had a student who emailed me and she said, "Man, I am such a perfectionist, and had you written that out, I would have walked away feeling so torn down and so just the zest for the project would have been eliminated." She said, "But because I could hear you talk through it with me and you gave me ideas and I could tell that you cared and you were invested and you wanted to see me succeed," she said, "I came away with that constructive criticism feeling like I am empowered and I know how to do this." And that was so good for me to hear because it made me really focus on how I share that audio feedback and what I am using with my inflection and my voice and my tone and how quickly I speak. And those things really make a
Because we
difference.
never mean to sound cruel,
No.
but sometimes it comes across a different way and students misinterpret our intent. Anybody else? Any other social cues?
If I'm speaking to a student and my tongue gets tangled, that wouldn't happen in a text or a typed message. And so laughing about this problem, I've actually heard that that made me more real to them than just some person doing a commentary.
So you've covered a couple of them there.
Oh.
Humor is one of them, and that we can share via audio that it's hard to share via text. And the other one is the evidence of a real person.
Real?
Yeah, that we're real people. Any other ideas?
Well, when I think of the Temple script and how the new movies have come out, the exact same words are stated, but the way they're stated and the pausing and the tone and the other elements, we reap new insights, and I think the same can be had with students in the audio fashion of what is written versus what is stated.
What a great example that is. Yeah, that's really a good example, and I think that you're absolutely right. Okay. So research has indicated that students sense a genuine interest, is the words that the research uses, from instructors when audio feedback is utilized. And this is supported by this statement from our own BYU-Idaho students. And additionally, it's not just the students, it's kind of a two-way street. When instructors use audio feedback, they feel more connected to their students also. Okay, so I want you to think back to a time when you tried to explain a complex issue to one of your students, and you ended up wondering if they were going to understand what you meant, or wondering if they were even going to read the 2 paragraphs that you just spent 10 minutes composing. A lot of times that's a big problem, and understanding is very good. So not only does audio feedback allow us to quickly explain complex issues to our students in greater detail and depth, but it's also been found that students actually understand it better and are more able to apply it when it's spoken versus text-based. So perhaps one of the reasons that students understand audio better is because they've found in research that when instructors use audio, they're more likely to discuss global topics as compared to local topics that we usually address more when we're using a text-based feedback. And so that might be one of the reasons that they can really understand better. And instructors also perceive that they are given detailed and richer feedback. So I hope everybody can see these. You can't see them. Maybe I should read them. Okay. So this student said, the audio was better for me to understand what the instructor wanted to say. I like hearing from the instructor more than trying to understand her through text. So the next theme is that audio feedback is positive, motivating, and confidence building. And I guess I'll just read these because everybody can't see them. It says, since online students often feel isolated, personal and individual comments can go a long way in giving students reassurance of their learning and confidence in their abilities. So this statement by Dias and Trumpy refers to the isolation that online students often feel when they're in their courses. And I would like to suggest that it's not just students who feel isolated sometimes. Do you ever spend hours and hours working at your computer and feel that isolation yourself? And so the use of the use of audio feedback can really help prevent that isolation. Golden Day also concluded that the emotional effect of feedback can be instrumental in motivating and building our students. We can convey enthusiasm for our subject matter and empower our students using audio that we never could do in text-based feedback. And I made a little note here when President Gilbert was talking about one of the things that students really liked is if their professors made them excited about learning. That was one of the things he talked about. And I think that's one of the things that we can do here is make them excited about learning. So I just received my mid-semester evaluations like probably a lot of you did. And some of the comments that I received back specifically addressed the fact that they felt like they were empowered by the things that I said. They said that that hearing my voice motivated them to persevere. And I just want to say that, you know, when I used to teach face-to-face, I could put my hand on their shoulder or look them in the eye and really communicate to them that I believed in them. But how do you do that online? I'm so happy to have discovered a method where I can offer that similar kind of support to my students. I love that because it enables me to be the kind of caring and inspiring instructor that I really want to be.
Yeah. So a question on this. Are you blasting out one audio feedback message for all 40 students, or are you sending out individual?
I do both. We're going to talk about different ways to do this in just a minute. After we cover the research, we're going to talk about how to do it.
I do both as well.
Okay, so here's a couple of quotes from other that students said. One said, I felt that there was a lot more of an interest from the instructor in how I succeeded in class. One said she has a level of enthusiasm for the course that is motivating, and I could hear that in her voice. And I just had to share a couple more with you because I just think it's so impactful to hear what the students have to say about these things. A few of them said, it sparked a desire to do better with the ability to hear her words instead of reading between the lines. There was a sense of caring which encouraged us to carry on in the midst of difficult assignments. It was comforting to hear her voice, especially since the subject matter seemed overwhelming and unapproachable. Oh my gosh, it makes me want to cry. You know, some of these students, they just have so much on their plate. They have so many things that they've got in the air, and if we can help them or encourage them or comfort them in any way to want to do this, to want to accomplish the work that they have before them, then we want to do it, don't we? I know that everyone feels that way.
One more thing to add to that is, I think when you do these other methods of feedback, and whether they're announcements or feedback doesn't really matter, but your students see vulnerability. They are so used to interacting with a computer day in and day out. And when they see that you're wrestling with certain things, that you've got kids yelling and screaming in the background while you're trying to get your notes from the instructor done, or I'll do audio feedback. I'll do an audio announcement instead of a video announcement, and I'll just tell them, hey, I have a bad hair day, so I'm just going to do audio only. Like just little things. They like to know that you're a real human being, member of the church struggling with certain things. Sometimes I even let them hear my own wrestle with some of my own challenges, and that I really think that vulnerability goes a long way.
And you know, one other thing that they said to me that really makes a big difference is they said, it helped me feel like I could communicate with my instructor if I had questions. Wow, that's really important, huh? That all of a sudden they see us like what you said, as a real person, and they can ask us questions and we're not going to think they're stupid, right? Anyway, so there's some good things. Okay, so preferences of students and instructors. So, despite the obvious case that we've just set for the use of audio and video in our courses, not all students or instructors prefer this modality. And for this reason, many of the authors who have researched this topic recommend giving students a choice of feedback. Maybe I better read these for people who can't see them. So there's a fairly balanced preference for audio or text. However, most students agree that audio is helpful, and between 52 and 92% would like audio in their course in the future. That's kind of a big variation because it's from several different studies. And many authors recommend giving students a choice of feedback modality, and that's what I just said. So that's something that we have to consider and think about. and how does that work, you know?
Does anyone give their students a choice and follow that choice in their feedback?
I gave a choice, but I never got any feedback.
You know, that's exactly what happened to me. That's exactly what happened to me. I gave them a choice and nobody responded.
Just one consideration going forward, especially, I mean, I taught English 106L at one time, and over half of my students were from Ghana in Africa, where their bandwidth is next to nil. They share like a 2 megabit connection with 150 students at a time at a church building. And so extensive audio and video, depending on what your student population is, it might not be very
Right, and so you have to consider this, so we're going to talk about those in accessibility in just a minute, so that will be good. That's a really good point.
When you talk, are you going to tell us some ideas about how we can gather data systematically for the feedback types?
What kind of data we have to gather?
When you say follow what's happening with the audio or the text feedback and different modalities, I think, we get anecdotes in our future evaluations, but I don't really know how I can assess whether the students are responding more positively to audio or text. All I have is the bits of feedback that come back in the evaluation.
Yeah, and I ask specific questions in my evaluations about things that I'm interested in. Like I've been researching this topic for a while, and so for a few semesters I've asked them questions. So what do you think about the audio? What works for you, what doesn't, So, yeah, that's one way.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of ways where you're looking together and hear exactly when it's more beneficial for some others. There's not a lot of great things out there, because some of the other research globally from other institutions does have some based off of what the task involved, what your feedback involves, what the modality would be best for, whether it's text, video, or audio. When you direct to some of that in our research. But within the institution, I'm not sure we have a lot. Tim?
I was just going to mention something that goes along with this. Some of the latest research that has to do with media development for online courses, they've been doing a lot of psychology with that. And something interesting that they have found is that cognitively, your brain, when you hear a voice that sounds like an infomercial or kind of a boring documentary, cognitively, your brain will start to shut down. When you hear a voice that sounds like a mentor, it will actually open up. And so I think not only, the tool and the action is important, but that tone coming across as a mentor, I think is a really important aspect of this.
That's really good information to have. Okay, so here's a couple of pros and cons from students and instructors. And, it's been shown in the research that students who prefer audio feedback are usually more highly engaged in the course overall. And I don't know if that's because they were already engaged or because the audio helps them, but they report being more highly engaged. And on the other hand, some students report that having text feedback is easier to look back at for future corrections. And so I think that what we really need to think about here is that as we look at the preferences, we need to really be aligning our audio feedback with the assignment type. And so,
yeah, I was going to say that I don't give my students a choice on when I give them audio versus text versus video feedback, but I have very specific assignments, and that's how I choose when I do which method.
go to the next slide. So here's the question for you. So it says personalized audio feedback is not well suited for all types of assessed work. And so my question is, what types of assignments do you think would be best suited for audio feedback? And I thought we could just talk about that for a minute. Things to get done, or what kind of assignments. I know what I've done, and I can share some of that too.
I teach Foundations English 101, and I've just been using Jing, and we're not over 3.0 yet, but I've noticed with the video in compilation, I can pull up their paper, I can highlight certain things, and then as I talk through them, I can scroll through, say this is what I found, and they're seeing it like a tutoring session almost. They're seeing me go through it and say, here's your thesis, here's what you could do better. So in essay form, I think you could do a lot more.
And that's a great way to learn.
I also references, for example, if thesis is really too loose. Go here, click on this, and then read here. So I try to keep where they have to go to a minimum to get all the information. But sometimes a link is just what they need. So I include that in the written stuff.
That is a good way to do it too.
I teach the math 100 hour course, and sometimes I'll send them a gene or or 2.0 also, but just having that thought process spoken out loud as you're working out a problem, I think is invaluable for students.
I think project updates, anything where there's an opportunity for them to improve and turn something back in, I found that to be very effective because they can hear the thought process, the improvement, and it invites a conversation. I've had many students, I'll tell them at the end of my feedback, this may still feel confusing. Call me, here's my phone number, let's chat about this. And I would say probably 60 to 70% of them will take me up on that. They'll call me and just say, hey, I just listened to my feedback, can you help me? The other thing I love to do is, I teach in family studies, so we have a lot of personal reflection type things that come through, and my students turn in journals. And so I don't do it every time, but if a student has written something in a journal that's particularly impactful or something is going on in their lives, it's so, when you're in 3.0, you only have a minute, but you can do it built into the system and just jump in and say, hey, I just wanted you to know, I read this, I care about you, and I hope things are going well.
Yeah, that's
And it doesn't
great.
have to be huge.
You know, I use it for my reflective journals too, and I also use it in formative type assignments like you just discussed. I think it's really good in complex assignments too.
I used it the first time this semester in the discussion board, and it was a surprise. I mean, they loved it, but they did not expect it, that audio-video feedback, and so that was a success.
You posted it in the discussion?
I did.
I've used it posted in my discussion boards, and it works good, huh? Especially if the discussion board's leading up to a formative, like an assignment. And so it's a formative type thing, yeah. I've also played with the idea of letting students talk to each other, but I haven't done it yet. Has anybody done that?
Do you have a capability to do
Well, yeah.
In
we do.
3.0, yes.
No.
Okay, so that's just something to play with. I mean, that seems like, that's kind of out there, and I don't know how I feel about it or how it would work, but I think we definitely should be thinking about it.
That most recent research study that Alayne and I read this last weekend on video feedback, or on video chatting, is that students would enjoy more video chatting with their instructor than they do with each other. And so it's not always as beneficial as you think it would be, but I think for icebreakers, it's excellent. The really cool thing about Alayne 3.0 is you can, especially in an icebreaker discussion board, you can do up to 3-minute video, webcam video. And I did that for one class I taught recently, and I responded to everybody with video responses, and they loved it. The connections that it made were 10 times stronger than they were with text. And that's great.
I've done that once too, and they loved it. But then that brings us to our very next point. Time and accessibility. And so anyone can implement best practice with unlimited time, but when we only have 9 to 12 hours a week to try to get our course done, then it gets a little bit sticky, doesn't it? And since time is a huge issue in modern education, most of the authors that were researching this audio feedback tackled this topic head on. And so these are some of the information from the research. And the conclusions are really that time spent is generally about equal. Time spent on text or audio is about equal. It's not like going to be a lot faster because you still have to read it. You still have to decide what you're going to say and things like that. However, the audio feedback is always richer and of higher quality in content. And so the audio allows us to convey a much larger quantity of information than the written form, even though it's the same time limit. Is that what you would agree with today? Any questions or comments about that? Okay. And so lastly, there are big variations in the reported time requirements that have led authors to suggest this about instructors, that the use of technology, compatibility of the assignment to the audio, and the instructor experience and skill using audio really influences the time requirements. So if you're doing it for the very first time, just know that it's going to take you longer than if you're doing it for the 100th time. And so that is one of the comments that we really, and let's do the next one. And it's the same for students, okay? So when students first are exposed to the use, like they come into your class, if they've never had audio or video feedback before, they might have difficulty knowing where to find it, how to open it. And so we need to make sure that we offer information to them so that they know what type of feedback to expect in the assignment, where and how to retrieve it. And also, we need to label it appropriately so they can re-access it. Because if we're giving like formative type information, they may need to re-access that when they're doing their next assignment. And if we have it labeled so that they can identify it as going with that assignment, then they can save it and re-access it.
Okay, so let's talk about iLearn 3 kind of tools here for a minute. So audio feedback, let's talk about audio only for a second. Audio recorder for feedback is only built into one tool in iLearn 3, and that's in the Dropbox tool, which by fall will be called assignments. So Dropbox, those of you that are in iLearn 3, being changed things to assignments. Which makes more sense. Right? Which Dropbox are you talking about? The one where I store all my stuff in the cloud, or this one? So if I remember right, online, it's if you're on the web version, it actually limits you to
1 minute.
1 minute, which is nice, right? You, for the most part, you want to get your stuff across 1 minute. I actually like to go between 1 and 3 minutes. So I like to use a third-party tool, which I'll talk about in a minute. If you're using the assignment grader app, so this is available on Android and on iPad, you get up to 5 minutes in the assignment grader. Why it's different than the web? Don't get me started. It attaches a WAV file. This is something you should know about. And those of you guys that are a little bit techie know that this is a little bit older technology. So your students have to have some kind of audio player that'll play back a WAV file. That's a little bit of a disadvantage. It's not actually built into the web. They can't, the web browser won't just play it for you.
Question.
Yeah.
So the one we use in iLearn 3 that's automatically in there, they still need the WAV?
It will give them a WAV file.
Okay. And the assignment grade will also be a WAV file. So
Correct.
So it's only with the assignment grader that they have to do the download. Is that what you're saying? Or that they said.
The assignment grader is the only one. Sorry, anytime you're in Dropbox and you give it a feedback, audio feedback, whether it's in the web or the app, they're going to get a WAV file. They have to download it.
Okay, and they have to have the player.
They're going to have to.
So does that show up as an attachment?
It shows up as a, well, a lot of times it looks like a link. So they'll click on the link and it'll download the attachment. Okay. Any other questions about? That's the only way audio feedback is built into iLearn 3.
Is it possible to have the audio go into text as you're saying it while you're doing it?
You're talking about voice dictation. There's lots of ways to do voice dictation, but those are all built into your computer or your device. So that would be a third-party tool that you could use, and I use it all the time. So maybe offline I'll tell you what I use, but I'll try to keep on this one because I got a couple more things.
How well does the WAV file download work with international?
WAV files are typically bigger. They're not well compressed. The compression isn't as good as MP3, so it's a little bit more. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So there are lots of third-party tools to be aware of. Okay. The first one I want to talk about is Turnitin. Now I call Turnitin a third-party tool. I know we got some English teachers in here, but in iLearn 3, you can turn on Turnitin for just about any Dropbox assignment, which does all the originality check and all that stuff. But Turnitin also has some really great video and audio recording functions. Has some really nice tagging functions where I know someone's got a capitalization problem and they just drag and drop it onto the document, and it gives really rich feedback. So
are the students getting their originality reports as well?
They are. They are. If you turn it on for them, yes.
Okay.
It's pretty slick. I like Turnitin quite a bit. The only problem with Turnitin is, and it's gotten better, but it's not directly, the feedback is not found inside Brightspace. Okay, so when they go in to find their feedback in Brightspace, they'll actually have to go, there'll be a link or a way that they'll actually get into Turnitin. So if they're looking at their grades, they might not see feedback. They look for feedback.
So we could be doing feedback in the
We've got documents that'll tell them how to get it.
Okay.
And that's what we want you to share. Every time in Brightspace, especially for the next year or two, when you give feedback to your students, tell them where to find it. And we've got a whole slew of documents inside iLearn 3 Help Guide, which is also known as Screen Steps, that we'll share that link with you as well. It just helps your students get sense. Oh, I'm sorry, let's go. Vocaroo is the next one. Shalane, do you use Vocaroo? No, your husband. Do you use Vocaroo? How do you like Vocaroo?
It works really well, as long as I record the right link and paste the right link.
Right. So Vocaroo is super simple. Alayne, try the next slide. I think I've got some pictures on Vocaroo here. Okay, so Vocaroo, you just go to vocaroo.com, you click record, you can listen to it right here, you click to save it, and then it gives you a link here, or it lets you embed. This doesn't work in Alayne 3, so no. Okay, you can't embed a player from Vocaroo into Alayne 3 because it's non-secure.
Audio only?
It is audio only, Vocaroo is audio only. But it's a really, I mean, those that use it say it's just too simple. And they love that it is so simple.
And my students don't have any problem. Like even I had a 74-year-old student and I just left her know, I recorded you some feedback, copy and paste this, control V. You know, I taught her how to copy paste it and listen. And she called me and she said, it worked.
Yeah.
She was so
I usually
excited.
type, left you audio feedback, click here to listen. And I just hyperlink it to this link.
Yeah, because you can hyperlink it, and then they don't even have to copy and paste.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I heard that the hyperlinks from Gene don't work.
They don't work.
But this one does?
Jing and Alayne 3 doesn't work. So by the way, if you're still using Jing, get over it. Go to something else. Your life will be much happier without Jing. Can you tell I don't like Jing? Okay. It's old technology. The people that invented it haven't improved it in 10 years. There's just going to be so many other better things.
Do we know what the time limit is on these ones compared to just built into?
Vocaroo, I think, was something like 5 to 10 minutes. It was plenty for me. I've never run into it. The same with Audio Boom. It's about the same. I think it's 10 minutes now. Alayne, go back to here. Special notes on Vocaroo. No account required. No time limit. So yeah, that's right. No time limit on Vocaroo. Embedding doesn't work in Alayne 3. Sharing links works well. You can download the MP3 to the course as well if you want to. So if you didn't want to link them out to where the MP3 is, you can actually just upload it right into Alayne 3. I don't typically do that. It's a lot of hassle. Students like things. Audio Boom, I like quite a bit. Audio Boom's embedded player does work. So I can actually here's the really cool thing. In Alayne 3, I can record it in Audio Boom. It gives me an embed link. I go into insert stuff and it says, you want to insert embed code? I say yes. I paste it in and this is what it looks like. And my students click play. They don't go to any other website. They listen to my audio right there.
Okay.
Video as well.
Audio Boom is also only audio.
It does take up kind of a lot of room on your announcement stuff.
Yes.
And so sometimes I've wondered if I don't know.
Yeah, if you're using it for announcements, it takes up pretty much, I mean, it's a pretty big chunk. This is my entire announcement widget, so you can tell it goes the full width and it's a couple hundred pixels high.
Does it audio playback, or automatic playback?
It is not automatic playback. So the automatic playback, I'll explain that one in a few minutes. Okay, so the last one is Kaltura. So Kaltura is also known as video.byu-i if you've ever gone there. And Kaltura is one of my favorites because, now this is what I would replace Jing with. Those of you guys that are using Jing, pay attention, this is what I would use. So the new Kaltura has a recorder built in where you can record presentations and lectures, screen, webcam, voice, or screen and webcam. And if you go into our Alayne 3 course, actually we've got a discussion board in there and you can actually see one of my recordings and you can actually practice responding to me. But I love it because I can adjust the size of my webcam on the fly while I'm recording. So what I can do is I can make it my entire webcam and I can talk to my students. And then I can change their attention from my webcam, shrink it up to the corner and say, okay, now I'm going to point you to something on the screen, something in the course. And so now I can just on the fly change, am I talking about navigation, teaching them something, modeling, or do I want their full attention on me? And it's awesome.
Does it give you a link, a file?
It automatically uploads to video.byu-i and lets me embed or link.
And it embeds really, really easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So programming is downloaded.
Yes. So when you go into video.byu-i in the upper right-hand corner, you can hit, I think it's add new, and there's like recording options there. And the first time you go there, it might say, hey, you might need to download the program to your computer. And it'll have a link.
And tell them how important it is to publish it.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the problem. Here's the one thing, the one downfall, here's the catch with Kaltura. When you first record with this program, and it automatically lets you title it and upload it right to Kaltura. So it's kind of like YouTube, right? It keeps it as private. And so I have to go, I go back in and I mark it as unlisted. Now, if it's private, and Tim, you might know more than me on this, but I think if it's private and you embed it, you should still be okay. But just to be on the safe side, because I'm always a little nervous about that, I just make it unlisted, so that I know that it's public with anybody that's got a link and I embed it.
So do they keep this as a library? So for instance, I have a lot of Gene screencasts explaining assignments, things like that.
Yes.
Each semester I can like just pop those in so I don't have to remake them. So I could go through and remake all my genes on this, they would save that library. And then each semester I can pull that up every time that assignment's coming. I don't have to reinvent the wheel every semester.
The answer is yes. Yeah, it works. Now, there's always a catch I've found, is it seems like if your students aren't watching your videos regularly, the IT department has a way to archive those, and they may look like they've gone away, or you might not be able to find them. And you can you can actually send an email or call BSC and say, I want my videos back.
But they should be there.
They're there somewhere.
Get them.
Typically, I found that it's about 6 months to a year that sometimes they start to mysteriously not show.
And the embed code you said is in there, so that can be embedded in there.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And there's an option when you are uploading it or recording it that you can say, keep this for just this semester, or as long as it's being downloaded and accessed.
Yeah.
But once it's like, I think 18 months old, they believe that nobody's accessed.
Right. What I found though is even if you, as long as you've got the embed code, even if you can't find it, with the embed code, it still works because it's kind of hidden in this archive section. But yeah, I really love this. So one thing you should know, presentations and lectures lets you do a webcam on one side and your PowerPoint or your screen on the other. So the screen is kind of split in half. Screen and webcam is picture in picture. So really is what that means. It means your screen is there and your webcam is kind of a small picture inside the main picture. Webcam is obviously just a webcam and voice.
I just wanted to say with Kaltura, I did a bunch of video feedback with that. Takes a long time. It's going to depend on your upload speed, but I did only like 7 or 8 and took a few hours. I mean, just because it takes forever to upload, takes time to process, so it's not instant.
Anytime you're uploading any kind of video, especially with including webcam to the internet,
just be aware
your
of that.
phone connections on your upload speed are going to be slow. What I found is anything more than about 3 minutes will probably take you more than 30 minutes to upload. Okay. Now, there's one exception to the rule that I use quite often. Has anyone tried using their cell phone to record notes from instruction? How'd you like that?
It was actually, it compresses it. It actually worked fairly well.
I loved it. In fact, I did mine with my daughter. Okay, so I just actually sat here and she and I sat on the couch and I had a little interview with her for my notes from instructor. I just kind of explained this concept that we were talking about this week. It was like families or something, right? And when I got done, I just hit upload to YouTube and I embedded it to YouTube and it was great. If you want to use YouTube, stuff like that, Screencast-O-Matic is a program you can download that lets you download, I think once you record it to 10 minutes or maybe even more, gives you an MP4, lets you upload it to Kaltura or YouTube, wherever you want. Plus, you get to keep the video file on your computer. So if anybody's archiving your stuff or getting rid of it, you always have a copy. And that's one of my favorites.
And I think for $10, you get their Splash copy right off of there, so it's not so bad.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, that's good. Good to know.
There's another tool called BB Flashback. It's amazing. There's no limit. There's no watermark.
BB Flashback?
Yeah, BB Flashback Express is what it's called. It's the one I use, and it'll automatically upload to YouTube too. And
awesome.
It's good.
That's called BB Flashback, right? You say that right?
Yeah, BB Flashback. It's all one word, and then Express is the free version.
Okay. Yeah, there's lots and lots of other tools I can talk to you about. Flipcast that I use personally. If you're using a Mac, there's also QuickTime Player. Always records video for free. It's always screen video. It's not screen and webcam at the same time. It's either one or the other.
Less than 5 minutes.
But there's just lots of really great tools out there.
So you went over a lot of the audio options. I do a lot of screencasts for specific assignments that my students have. So I'll do like 40. And I tried doing Kaltura with it, and it was horrific. I thought this was time consuming. I've tried Screencast, but that's where I found that Jing is really the fastest one that I could use, even though you hate it. So is there an alternative to Jing where I can just, put in the like a link, similar to these,
You can still, so here's the answer, you can still use Jing, but your students will never be able to click on it.
right.
They'll have to
But
copy, they'll have to copy.
Is
and
there,
paste it.
is there an alternative to, for
The ones
screencast?
that I've given you are the best ones.
Those are the only ones, okay.
Well, real fast, one last thing I want to talk about, would you go to the next slide for me? Like, oh, sorry, that was it, clicker or that?
Which one?
Go back to the last one, there we go. So, what do you guys prefer, linking or embedding? Okay, why?
Because there's a picture already.
There's a picture already, and you didn't send them out of your course. You keep them in your course, you keep them on your notes from instructor, or you keep them in the feedback, wherever it might be. I agree, but both work. So just make sure you know how to do both. If you don't know how to embed, we will have more videos and things coming up on that. But we're still working on these transition videos for that. But I think that's the majority.
Okay, so are we done?
We're out of time.
Okay, so I have to say one more thing, and that is that you just have to have that pioneer spirit that we were just talking about in the big meeting, and just try these things and get in there and
Yeah, our iLearn 3 course, you can find all the PowerPoint presentation, all the research that we've done. You'll find links to everything right there. Thanks, guys.